Hello, I'm ButWhyLevin, but you can call me Mr. ButWhyLevin, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you my new game project I've been working on. Right now I'm calling it Project Seaborn, and it's a mix between an action RPG and a turn-based RPG. And this image right here is not really what the game looks like right now. This is just a cover I drew. Here's what the game looks like right now. Now, some people would call this ugly, and personally I prefer the term charming, but these are largely placeholder graphics, as I have currently been focused on building the core systems that will make this game work. And so in this video I'm going to talk about how I progressed to the point where I am at now, and what my plans are for the future of this game. Also, this very appealing and marketable mascot says that you should subscribe to the channel or something. Okay, now let's go back a bit. And by a bit, I mean over a year, as that's whenever I began this project. But I spent most of this early development coming up with what exactly I wanted the game to be. At the moment, I'm not going to reveal much about the story. I'm going to be saving that for a future devlog. So in this video, I'm mostly going to just be talking about the gameplay. I envision this game to be a marriage of my two favorite types of games. Top-down bullet hells like Archvale and Enter the Gungeon, and turn-based party RPGs like Omori. Basically, I want to capitalize on the strengths of both, having fast-paced, skill-based combat from bullet hells and strategy-heavy battles where you have to build a team composition over time and take advantage of enemies' weaknesses to win. In practice, this means that battles will be composed of two parts, the battle section and the plan section. I also have big plans for the story, characters, and world of this game. I want to tell a simple story with interesting characters while making sure that the gameplay and progression of the game are also solid. I have no idea how long it will take me to finish the game. If I do make it as big as I want to though, it will probably be a project of at least double the size and development time that Couch Combat was. So yeah, 4 years is my conservative estimate. And I have adopted several design philosophies that I plan to uphold throughout the creation of this battle system and later whenever I make content for the game. The first principle is that winning battles should come down to 3 skills: dodging bullets and dealing maximum damage in the bullet hell sections, smartly utilizing your party members and using enemy weaknesses during the plan sections, and building a strong team composition and preparing for each battle. This is so that challenges in the game can be approached from many angles, which when combined with some accessibility options should make the game as broadly appealing as possible. Secondly, I want to make sure that none of the plan stage actions do much on their own. There won't be any press button and deal a bunch of damage actions. Rather, I want these actions to do things like heal your characters, boost their stats, or allow you to inflict status effects during the battle stage. Finally, while I do want to have grinding in the game, I'll keep it varied. I and many other RPG players really enjoy progression when it's done right. Like in Final Fantasy Tactics, you aren't just running around in some grass to raise a number until you can continue. You're going to specific, sometimes unique quests to get money and experience that allow you to spec your characters and build a unique and powerful team. I think that sort of progression is very fun and satisfying and would like to have that in my game. But anyways, in late 2021 is when I started making a prototype of the game. I started with basic player movement and then I went to prototyping an attack system. I also set up a party following system for other battles and put in place a prototype for the plan phase and some basic enemies. And I also played with the plan for the game a lot at this time. I experimented with different visual styles, like a mix between 2D pixel art with some 3D, which didn't end up going anywhere, and I also considered a hand-drawn style. Currently, I'm just going with a basic pixel art style for the game, although I do plan to have hand-drawn portraits of the characters. I am also considering doing it all hand-drawn, but that'll probably be impossible unless I can get an artist on board for the project, and I really have no idea how to get another team member. So for now, I'm just going to be developing the game with this pixel art style, which I can fairly easily make. This video is sponsored by the generous people at SNHU. If you are interested in making your own video game, then consider this. What if you had the knowledge and experience to make your game a reality and turn it into an actual career with opportunities for growth? SNHU has one of the largest accredited non-profit online degree offerings in the country. They feature over 200 degree programs focused on getting you started in or advancing yourself in a career that you'll love. But let's talk about SNHU's game development program. In this program, you'll learn how to make realistic, dynamic gameplay experiences with game AI, game physics, 2D and 3D graphics, and interface design. You'll also learn computer programming languages like C++, C#, and Java. And you'll learn 3D modeling and texturing with game art software. Courses are taught by industry experts who will teach you how to research, develop, and contribute to advances and trends within the field of game programming. All of SNHU's programs are extremely flexible as there are no set class times, allowing you to work when and where you want. If you started college and never finished, then SNHU will let you transfer up to 90 credits so you don't have to start over. That's up to 75% of a bachelor's degree and up to 33% of a master's degree. SNHU is radically affordable. Their online tuition rates are some of the lowest in the nation. If you are interested in checking out SNHU, then go to snhu.edu/levin. Link is in the description. But let's fast forward a while forwards, as I was busy working on Couch Combat, my previous game, up until around the end of the summer. But after finishing that, I finally came back and decided to start with a new empty project. This is because the old version of the game was already pretty messy and I just kinda wanted to start fresh. But since I'd already done most of this before, I was able to breeze through the initial setup of the game while making improvements. First off, the movement is fairly simple, as you just run around and have these squash and rotate animations. I do need to make some actual sprites for running, but none of my attempts have looked very good yet. And I also added a dash move. I then put together the weapon system, and I took heavy inspiration from Archvale for how to make the swords function, as I think Archvale does that extremely well. Also, the way weapons work is with scriptable objects, which means that all these weapons actually work with the exact same scripts. I just have values which I can change to make the different ones. This should make making weapons in the future super easy and expandable. I also made it so you can switch between party members. You'll have 3 party members in the game: Liam, Yuri, and Ava. Liam is the melee character. He'll have higher HP and the weapon I made for him right now, which is the basic sword. Yuri is the ranger. He'll deal high single target physical damage from range. Right now he just has a bow and arrow. And finally, Ava is the mage. She will have a wide variety of weapons which should deal elemental damage and be effective at fighting groups of enemies. Right now she has a book of fire that shoots out seeking projectiles. I then took to setting up enemies. I'm making sure to have a very abstract system for enemies, as both the enemies and the players have controller classes that derive from a class instant controller, which makes many functions like taking damage generic. But I also made it so it's possible for me to make enemies which don't target the player, and I actually decided to refer to them in code as fighters. These fighters can be on one of 3 teams: the player's team, neutral, and the enemy team. Player team fighters will target the enemies, and neutral ones will only pick a side whenever they are accidentally hit by a member of the team, who they will then turn against. I think that it's a good idea to start out this way, as it will allow for dynamic battles in the future of multiple teams. And since the system is so dynamic, I can maybe have something like giving Ava a spell, which will temporarily turn enemies to your team or something like that. And I also at this time set up a testing tool and wasted way too much time making enemies go to war with one another. I also added a bit more polish with screen shakes, hurt flashes, post-processing, and damage numbers. And I later expanded this damage number system to be an event exclamation system. This lets me have text pop-ups for all sorts of events, like healing and damage, or buffs and debuffs, and even picking up items and stuff like that. And the final big thing I had to do for the foundation of the game was build the plan phase of battling. I set up a combat manager singleton, which not only does things like store the teams the enemies are on, but it also tells the enemies and players when it's time to switch to the plan state. Right now I just have the game switch to the plan state on a timer, but I planned on making a more robust system in the future. I like enemies to have attacks similar to Deltarune or Undertale, and when these attacks are over, then you'll go back to the plan state. And speaking of Deltarune, I decided to have energy for actions be shared between party members like Deltarune. And you'll also start each battle with 0 energy and have to build it up. I think that this better fits the game, as usually RPGs have systems where you are more incentivized to limit your usage of mana because you only get to refill it at certain points. But personally I like to have each battle be more contained and more deadly, rather than having the difficulty come from endurance-based dungeon crawling over multiple battles. I put together an axe system that uses scriptable objects in a similar way to how player weapons use them. Each action can be composed of multiple portions, which can currently only heal, deal damage, buff, or debuff. But in the future, I plan on having these actions be able to execute more move-specific code, and also give you the ability to inflict status effects with them. Oh yeah, and I also made a stat buffing system. It's pretty similar to games like Pokemon Stats Boost. You can use an axe to increase the stat, and you can also debuff enemy stats through axe. I'll probably build some system to have enemies debuff you, possibly even giving them their own axe. The stats that you can buff are physical attack, elemental attack, physical defense, elemental defense, move speed, and attack speed. I also had to put together a targeting system for the axe, which I'll be able to reuse when I add items to the game. And I finished up by building a bunch of placeholder UI. The UI is really ugly and it also takes up a lot of the screen, so I can probably reduce how much of it you have to see at all times. But currently it gives you all the information you need. And yeah, that's pretty much where the game is at now. My next goal is to use the systems I built to make an interesting fight with an interesting enemy. I'll have dialogue, status effects, and multiple enemy attacks and stuff like that. I hope you guys like what I revealed about the current state of the game and my future plans for it, and I also hope to demo this game early and often to make sure that I can make the battle system as good as possible, so stick around if you're interested in that. Also, I'm now going to try to stick to a more strict uploading schedule of about 1 devlog a month. I'll also have occasional other videos that are unrelated. This will hopefully eliminate big gaps in uploads while allowing me time to make each devlog interesting. If you have any suggestions for the game, then please suggest away in the comments. I'm excited to begin work on this new project, and I hope that you'll follow me all the way to release, however far away that may be. Thanks for watching, and thanks to SNHU. Be sure to check them out if you're interested.